Hi, everyone. Welcome to another comics loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. I am delighted on this episode to be talking with comics creator Ben Ferrari. Ben, thank you for jumping in, joining, and bringing the long boxes behind you, the stacks of books. I see Barry Windsor Smith back there and a number of other, those look like perhaps DC and Marvel editions and things like that. So thank you for representing all the books here.
Absolutely. I have a big selection of graphic novels and trades, and then I don't know, 10 or 12 long boxes and short boxes of actual comics too.
Nice,
But
nice.
my wife would prefer I just put some stuff on the bookshelf and cleaned up my office. Yeah.
It's good working space. It's good working space. Lots of inspiration there.
That's what it is. I like to live in a mess when I'm making comics, and I like my comics nearby. So here we go.
There it is. There it is. Before I hit record, I was sharing with you that, I've been reading comics for a long time, since I was about 7 years old.
Okay.
But what about you? What connected you to the world of comics and visual storytelling and such things?
Similar to you, actually. I was 10 years old. I'm 47 now, so 37 years I've been reading.
Hmm.
Uh, I would wander down, I grew up in Orange County, California, and I would wander down to a 7-Eleven down the street, and I discovered the spinner racks and G.I. Joe and Transformers. I would go down there often. I discovered that they would come out Wednesdays, I guess I did at some point.
Hmm.
And that was my first collecting experience, picking those up. But I was thinking about it the other day. I don't know why I didn't try other things. Why just G.I. Joe and Transformers? I don't know. At 10 years old, that's what I was interested in. Um, and I started tracing Transformers comics, which is really strange, more than G.I. Joe even. But that's how I started drawing as well, as just
Nice.
tracing. And I've been drawing ever since. So
Very cool. Very cool. One thing leads to another, and it's funny how so often reading a comic leads to drawing. I also drew comics
okay.
and traced and did things as a kid, but you took this in a different direction than I took it, because you are now making comics and sharing your own stories with the
Yeah.
world as well.
Well, I'll make it a short history of my comic book making. I was 19, 18, just finished high school in 94, and I was going to church in a town called Brea, California, and
Mhm.
Rob Liefeld was also going to church there. And this was New Mutants time. This is the big time when he became huge, and just ex New Mutants exploded. The introduction of Cable and Deadpool and Domino and Shatterstar and all those great characters. And there he was down the aisle from me, it was kind of an elevated room, kind of a half circle, big stairs that we would all sit on, and you're looking down at the pastor or whatever. And there was Rob Liefeld down there at the bottom, and I mean, I was just enamored. There's this superstar, and there he is. And I bugged him about getting a tour at one point.
Mhm.
I drove up next to him as he was walking to his car, and I said, "Hey, can I get a tour of the studio?" Because he had started Extreme Studios by that point. Um, and he said, sure. And so I went and I not only got a tour, but he hired me at Image Central, which was right next door in Anaheim. So I was
Nice.
over there for a little while and we did San Diego Comic Con. This must have been 95, 94 possibly. And and he said, I remember he said, I'm going to bring you over to Extreme. So, okay. So I spent 2 years, ended in 96, so 94 to 96, working for Liefeld at Extreme. And it was absolutely the best experience of my whole life, right? 19, 20 years old. Um, Basically as a gopher and an assistant editor. I worked for Matt
Mhm.
Hawkins in they had a little, they had another, they had another imprint called Maximum Press. And Matt Hawkins was the editor and I was his assistant. So I helped Matt Hawkins make these Maximum Press books. And I did letters pages for the Extreme books as well. And I would go in the evenings after running to FedEx in my car with a guy named Kite Kim, and we'd go do FedEx. We'd race over there at the last second, and we'd get back, and I would have the whole evening. And I spent my evenings hanging out in the bullpen and getting to know guys, A lot of guys, some guys didn't work in the studio, but it was jam-packed with inkers and pencilers at all times. Dan Frega, Platt was around, Jaime Mendoza, Robert Lacko, Pat Lee, Brian Denham, um, Shelby Robertson, like guys who are still making comics today. Norm Ratman, who's one of the best inkers at DC. These were just the guys who were there. Andy Park, who designs all of the MCU designs in those films. So I learned to make comics there over those couple years, and that ended in '96 or so, and I don't think I read comics much after that, and I moved up to San Francisco 2001, and I started drawing, and I drew something that I wanted to do, sort of like Legends of the Fall, an old movie from late '90s, I believe. That
Hmm.
was a favorite, and I started drawing that, and it took me probably 7 or 8 years, and I just kind of chipped away at it, and I finished 4 issues. I didn't do anything with it. I didn't know what to do. This was a little bit before print on demand.
Hmm.
And so I was just working on this story, and this is it right here. This is 4 issues under a new cover by my friend Kurt Belcher,
Nice.
called The Long Hunters, and it's basically early 20th century adventure stories.
Hmm.
So and then I think 2008 everything crashed, and I wasn't working much. I'm an electrician, and I was home, and I started. I think I compiled that and started making other books, and then the internet was pretty big for me at that point. That's when I kind of got into it, and I met lots of people online, and I started making books. So that's 15 years ago, 2008 to now. Easily over 70 projects. Some of those were just my books. Some of those are books that I've been involved with helping other people. Some of those are trade paperbacks, putting my books together under a new cover. Some of those are graphic novels. Um, and so here we are in 2024. I had a series published through Red 5 Comics, a really great publisher um, out of Houston.
Hmm.
And it's called The Carriers.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
5 issues, weaponized carrier pigeons and their New York adventures. This is issue 1, covered by my friend Cedric Nocon. And we put 5 issues out, and then they put a trade out with those 5 issues, so I'm extremely proud. This book right here is the culmination of all those years of reading comics and learning to make them, and
Yeah.
then making them on my own. And so this is the first, what I plan of many, both with Red 5 and other publishers. So,
Very
and,
cool.
and
Very
then,
cool.
I got a whole stack of other things if you're interested in hearing about it that I've
Yeah,
made.
yeah, by all means. And you've got some lovely visuals there as well. So I am
Yeah.
curious about some of you said 70 projects. So curious about some of the highlights along the way.
Well, when I count my 70, I count the 4 issues. They're individual 4 issues, of course, of The Long Hunters, North
Hmm.
American mountain men, early 1800s, frontier genre. And I stick with adventure stories typically. That's just my thing. Not a lot of magic or science fiction. I do superhero as well, which I love. I love superhero books, but when I draw, I have the most fun doing straight up adventure stories, and I think you'll see that in a couple of things I'm working on.
Hmm. Hmm.
So let's see. We did a book called Dive Bomb, created by my friend Kurt Belcher and I. Um, s- you know, Inspired by the Rocketeer, no doubt about it.
Love it.
He is he's a washed up superhero. He lost all his wealth. He was wealthy. It was basically what if Batman lost all his money, right? But was also an idiot. So he's not very smart. He's got a daughter who is very smart. She's also got a jetpack, and we created this uh, an anthology. It's a series of stories, mostly written by Kurt. I did some art in here. This is by a guy named Kevin Norman. I don't know how well you can see it.
Hmm.
Uh, but that was Dive Bomb, and I love the series. I love the concept, and it turned out really well. I've been too busy with other things to actually put more Dive Bomb out, but we have stories written. It's just a matter of getting to it. Um, we did what I did was I put together a bunch. So at some point, another good friend of mine, Jay Hewer, terrific writer. He and I created a bunch of things along with Kurt Belcher, and we decided we wanted to do a shared universe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I created this thing called the Sun Chasers with my father-in-law, and it's about the son of Hitler out to redeem the Hitler name. He's a
Huh.
good person trying to take out people like his father. He was raised in Chile, grew up understanding what his father had done. And the concept is so awesome. And Kurt Belcher, who I've mentioned a few times, did the art in this, I believe, 50-page book. And this is a black and white version. I did a coloring book for it as well. But it's it's really just fantastic art
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and colors based on what I think is a great story. And a friend named Buck Weiss actually broke down that plot that I created, and then we put it out together. So anyway, getting back to this, we did what we call Road to Zion Wars, and I wanted to do a shared universe with all these different properties that we had published over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So in here you have um, both the Sun Chasers, the son of Hitler out to redeem the Hitler name. You have that dive bomb property. You have a science hero named so here's some color pages of Sun Chasers with Kurt Belcher's art. Um,
Nice. Nice.
yeah, and I did a book called Saturn and Orion. It's probably the first book I did. Her design is sort of a Deadpool, definitely Deadpool ripoff. This is probably 2009 when I finished it. I
Uh-huh.
know, early 2010s. And Jay wrote it, and we created it together. And she's a extremely smart science hero. So we took all these properties and we put them together under Road to Zion Wars, and then at the very end we did an 8-page story, kind of tying them together with art by a friend named Luis Rivera.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so basically the 8-pager sets us up for a bigger story. So when we were done with that, we contracted with an artist named German Adriazola, and we brought out Zion Wars, and we brought all those different elements, those different concepts together in one story. And so this is we did a really great Kickstarter for it. And it's just a solid adventure story teaming up all these different heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Love that
well,
cover too. That's a great
no,
cover.
oh, that cover is by Corey Hampshire, who's well known in Marvel and Image. He's been around for a long time. Fantastic guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, Zion Wars. Um, let's see. I also did some very political comic books. I'm going to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
called
Mm-hmm.
Always Punch Nazis, which I did not grab. Give me one moment.
Yes, absolutely.
So these are sorry about that.
That's fine.
Always Punch Nazis 2. We did 3 volumes. Here's issue 2. And they got bigger as we went along. They got better as we went along.
Mm-hmm.
And we eventually, and we got every sort of genre, tons of different artists and writers. The success of issue 1, of volume 1, brought in a lot of people who were interested. And those were successful on Kickstarter. That was a controversial time, actually, as an aside. We decided to do issue 1 after Charlottesville, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we decided to do it, and we put it on Kickstarter, and there was a lot of pushback from the right in our country,
Mm-hmm.
and to the point where Kickstarter got pressure from Breitbart News, which is a right-wing news outlet,
Yeah, yeah.
to the point where they wanted to kick my book off of their website, off of their site.
Huh.
And unbeknownst to me and my collaborators at the time, the rank and file of Kickstarter said, no, you're not kicking this project off of Kickstarter. And it led
Wow.
to a 2-year battle between the rank and file and management of Kickstarter. In the end, Always Punch Nazis was the reason that Kickstarter unionized. I don't know if you know that Kickstarter is union, but it's probably been 2 years since they went union.
Huh.
But it was a big deal in the tech world, a tech company going union, and it was all because of my book.
Oh wow. I had
I
no
would say
idea.
my book, but plenty of people obviously helped. And a guy named Silas Dixon was the one who originally said, "Hey, let's do a book." So he gets
Hmm.
full credit there as well. Yeah, so I'm building right now a compendium for Always Bunch Nazis. They'll probably be closer to the election. We figure that's a good time to put out a highly charged political
Hmm.
collection,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yep. Yep. Good planning.
Yeah. So I guess that's my story. The last thing I'll say is I'm working on a new adventure book. Conan is one
Hmm.
of my favorite comic books. I have probably 90% of all the Conan the Barbarian from the 70s and 80s with John Buscema is one of my favorite artists, and I love the stories. So I created something called Kanan the Marauder, and it's a rabbit. It's a bunny. So
Nice.
I'm on issue 4 right now, um, drawing, and these are some interior pages. This is just a sketchbook I put together and printed up some. These are some covers and interior pages and just pin up stuff. So that's Kanan the Marauder. That's my latest project, and at some point I'll decide on a publisher. We have some. I'm going to submit to Mad Cave right now. Red
Hmm.
5's an
Hmm.
option as well. Um, yeah, and I think I have a page. I had a page, a couple pages. I do all my arts on 11 by 17 Bristol.
Nice.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Um, there's so it's 4 issues, and we made it a point to send the main characters to various locations on this, this planet.
Hmm.
Not just one setting. We have them in the desert, we have them on island, we have them on the mainland, we have them in forest, we have them in caves. So trying to do something, even though obviously, it's an archetype character, trying to do something, kind of different and make it unique and interesting. And we had a good story for it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
very cool. Very cool. It
thank
sounds
you.
like you've had a lot of great collaboration and support along the way, from Rob Liefeld at the beginning now to Kurt Belcher and Silas Dixon and other folks as well. I love the community aspect of comics.
Me too. And now that you mention it, we've sort of lost that. Um, as far as collaborating, I met lots of guys, as I mentioned. A guy named Matt Grant was one of the first guys, Mike Luoma, and I'm still friends with all these guys, and I still do things time to time. But there's an element of out there where if you ask someone to work with you and it's not paid, you're poo-pooed. How could you?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's how I got started is working with people for free. I do work for free, they do work for free, and we come up with, I got stacks of books that we've made because we're not professionals, or at least we weren't at the time. And you come up with it's just sad because when I see people talk about collaborating, they get so much pushback. So
Hmm.
I don't think that happens as much. It probably happens, but everybody's demanding pay, even though they're not, actually, polished enough, in my opinion, or have the experience or have the portfolio to demand a payment. Everybody's demanding it, and so there's less collaboration, and I think that's too bad. I think
Hmm.
there's less spontaneity and learning. You're going to learn when you're collaborating as
Yeah.
friends, and just for the just for the sake of creating something. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
lots of collaborations, lots of friends I've made.
Now, were you saying that you also currently have a Kickstarter that's about to be in progress or that is in progress? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, I haven't even mentioned that one. Always Punch Nazis. We did 3 stories over the 3 volumes of I love Captain America, and I've always wanted a Captain America book based on his adventures in World War II in Europe, right? After he comes back from the ice, doesn't really interest me. I want him fighting Nazis in World War II. Anyway, so again, Jay Hewer, I said to him, "Hey, I want to do a character. I want to do Captain America in World War II." So we created a Native American Captain America named Warhawk,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
in his first stories, we introduce a Superman archetype character called Magni, in the pages of Always Punch Nazis. And pretty quickly, Magni realizes he, was brainwashed by Hitler, blah, blah, blah. So the two, Magni and Warhawk, they team up, they have adventures. So we did 3 stories in the Always Punch Nazis books. And then we created a bunch more stories. So now I'm starting a Kickstarter in the next day or two,
Nice, nice.
called Warhawk and Magni Adventures #1 and #2. It's a double feature. So if anybody's interested in that, just search Kickstarter for Pilot Studios or Warhawk and Magni Pilot
Hmm.
Studios, and you'll find it. We have I had a lot of success with the Always Punch Nazis books. Then I put a book out, and I assumed a superhero book, and I assumed all those fans that I had, or readers that I had gained would translate to this superhero thing, and it didn't work. So this is
Hmm.
my that was probably easily 2 years ago, and so this is my first one since then. So we're going for a low bar as far as funding it. If it goes
Hmm.
higher than that, great. If it's at that lower number, that's fine too. I don't care. It's just a matter of getting the book out there. Because another thing is I've made so many books, but I've only done 6 or 7 Kickstarters. That's a lot of material that the world hasn't even seen.
Hmm. Hmm.
You spend all this time and effort and energy, and it goes. I sell them at shows. Don't get me wrong, around the Bay Area, and on Kablan. Oh, I'm sorry, on Indie Planet, but
Hmm.
and on Etsy. If you look up Etsy, I have Pilot Studios on Etsy. I ship books myself. Any of these things that I talk about are available on Etsy. I'm Pilot Studios. So
Nice, nice. Is that the sort of the best place to go if folks want
I think
to
so.
check out
Yeah,
work? Yeah.
it really is. Yeah. If I'm out of something, I can restock in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I've always punched Nazis there. I have all these Zion and Road to Zion Wars and Canaan and Carriers. I have it all. And I think I have some original artwork on there too, if anybody's interested in that.
Nice, nice. You shared the cover for Warhawk and Magni with me, and it looks great.
Oh, yeah.
It looks really great. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's actually 4 covers because they're also flip books,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So you read a story and then you flip it over, and there's another cover and another story, and that's on both issues. So yeah, thank you. We got Kevin Norman, Kurt Belcher, Netho Diaz, and Stephen Wilcox, who does a bunch of interior art as well.
Hmm. Nice, nice. And Netho Diaz is just great in the work that he does as well.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you're a fan.
Hmm.
He's he was doing a bunch of independent work when I was lucky to get a cover from him, and since then, he's done Predator and Daredevil
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
some X-Men books. So I think it was X-Men, maybe it was Legion. Anyway, he's popular at the Marvel offices,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to have gotten a cover from him, and I have a feeling he's going to be doing X-Men real soon, which that's just speculation, but yeah, he's
That'd
going
be
to get
cool.
big time. Yeah, and he's a good guy too. So
Yeah, even better, even better. When good things happen to good people. Love it.
right, yeah.
Also, before I'd hit the record button, you were saying that you are involved in getting comics to the hands of some young readers as well, which is always something that interests me
Yeah.
and always something that I support. So curious about that.
Well, my wife is a fourth grade teacher, and I have fond memories as a kid of finding a box of comics and rifling through and seeing what's there. Just the most random stuff, old stuff. So I put together a box. This is actually the second box of old comics, and you can buy old comics, obviously, at the dollar bin store. And my
Hmm. Hmm.
retailer, Joe Field at Flying Colors in Concord, he's got it by weight, so you get them really, really cheap.
Nice,
So
nice.
I'll pick up tons of books and send them, pack a short box full with stuff, and I try to pick stuff that the girls will like.
Hmm.
Spider Girl and Hawk and Dove and Robin. I mean, these are just, your standard boilerplate comics.
Love it.
Try to get
Yeah.
it as all ages as I can. And maybe that one's for me. I don't
A little
know.
throwback to Liefeld there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so my wife sent me pictures the other day. She put the box out and the kids just swarmed it, and they're just having a grand time going through and passing each other books. And So I'm going to put a second box in her classroom full of comics pretty soon.
I
So
love that. Love
yeah.
that. Yeah. I was going to ask just one or two more things beyond that, and I think I was going to ask something along the lines of the kind of stories that you're drawn to tell if folks are interested in checking out the work that you do and sort of getting that idea of genre and a little bit of what to expect.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm pretty simple. When I look at the characters that I've created over the years, um, very few superheroes, even though I read plenty of superheroes,
Hmm. Hmm.
a lot of my heroes, they're heroes, but they're street level Punisher types. Not on the super violent side like that, but just meaning they don't have superpowers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, this Kanan the Marauder I mentioned is Conan, but we keep out all the magic, just straight action, adventure, fun stories, cool stories, a little bit of violence, not rated R necessarily, but a little bit of an edge on them.
Yeah.
Um, the Sun Chasers, the son of Hitler, he's just a guy. He is the Punisher with a much better backstory.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I created a character set in Baghdad in the Green Zone. She was a vigilante and she was a soldier, and she would leave the safety of the Green Zone and go out and help the local population who was just in this middle of this war. We're talking 15 years ago now when that idea came to me when we were occupied, obviously when we occupied Baghdad and the rest. So yeah, that's what I like to draw is action adventure stories. Same with The Long Hunters, my first big 4-issue book. White man grows up with the Indians. That classic story that we've heard 1,000 times.
Hmm.
Torn between two worlds.
Hmm.
He grew up with his parents in, um, you know, on the east in the States, and then comes over the Appalachians, and is raised by the Shawnee when his parents die in a snowstorm. And so he lives his life out in the wilderness, with this back and forth going on. So I like depth with my stories, I like
Hmm.
something interesting and adventure. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty simple.
Love it, love it. Well, it sounds like a good time in comics, which is always good. And I think the final question is just you mentioned a couple of websites there. You mentioned Etsy. Are there social media spaces that you'd like to mention before we close?
Yeah, besides Etsy, again, you can find me at Pilot Studios on Etsy. I'm always sending out packages to people. Um, oh, I have a T Public site, Pilot Studios at T Public, TEE Public. .com. And so I have a bunch of shirts on there based on a lot of the art that we've produced over the years. And then, I'm on Facebook. I friend people all the time. And then Pilot Studios on Facebook. And I keep the Pilot Studios straight comics.
Hmm.
If you don't like my politics, stay away from my main page, my Ben Ferrari page. But I share comic book related stuff on both my personal stuff and the Pilot Studios page, with announcements about the Kickstarters coming up and all the rest. I run a Daniel Warren Johnson page that I just
Hmm.
started in the last couple of weeks, which is a lot of fun. He's just a great writer, artist doing the Transformers these days. That's one of my favorite books in a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And a very nice guy. I've met him in person
Have
before, and
you?
yeah, yeah, very nice guy.
It seems that way. I've been there. He's got what's he call it? A director's cut, director's commentary of the Transformers. He's probably done it on older books too, but I've only discovered it now because of the Transformers. And he just goes page to page and tells you all about his process and what he was thinking. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
he's seems like a super nice guy, and I love it. I like it because his art, it's a lot of manga influence, which is not my influence, but I really am appreciating the things that he's bringing to Western
Hmm.
comics from all that manga influence. I mean, I can
Hmm.
see it,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic. So, I guess social media, Instagram, I'm on there, but no, it's not more important than my Facebook page as far as showing off what I'm doing. Twitter, I don't do. Yeah, I think my most important stuff is the Facebook and my Etsy page as far as sales. And then
Sounds
Red 5, let me say Red 5, if you go to red5.com, they have the Carriers book and
good.
lots of other great comic books from friends of mine. A guy named Alex DeLuca made a thing called The Dragon Whisperer. It's a steampunk adventure series. He's done 2 volumes. It's awesome. You can get that on Red 5, their home site. So yeah, I guess that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great to hear about all the things, Ben. Glad to have you back
Yeah.
anytime. I hope you consider this a space to talk about comics anytime, and I appreciate the work you're doing.
Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for contacting me. Thanks for having me on your show. A lot of fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Same here.